As I glanced around the nearly empty room, I asked, "Are you ready to leave yet?" A sigh escaped my companion. "Just waiting for the movers," they replied, a tinge of relief in their voice. "Honestly, I won't miss seeing you around. And the way you changed the locks, as if I'd try to break in, that was a bit much." Had always been curious about why such extreme precautions were necessary, but now it seemed almost irrelevant. When I first met Kevin, he was a quiet man, always concerned about what others thought. After we got married, he became the epitome of a henpecked husband. A week after I settled into my new home, Kevin showed up, desperate. "It's me. Open up," he urged. I pretended not to recognize him, meeting his panic with feigned ignorance. "I'm Carol, a 34-year-old who works part-time 4 days a week," I said through the door. It's been 3 years since Kevin and I tied the knot. We don't have children, but I always thought we could still find happiness together. In the early days of our marriage, we stayed up late talking about our dreams for the future. We were both new to love, cautious at first, but I thought we genuinely enjoyed each other's company. "Let's be that couple that grows old together," I suggested one night. "Yeah, I like that idea. Maybe 3 kids, a boy and a girl." "That's exactly what I was thinking," I agreed. Those light-hearted conversations were delightful to someone like me who had never really been interested in love or marriage. Meeting Kevin had been unexpected. We met at a party I attended out of obligation, not enthusiasm. He seemed to be there under similar pretenses, and we bonded over our shared disinterests, gradually becoming friends. He was serious, a bit reserved, but always kind, and I found that charming. Then, out of nowhere, he proposed. "Carol, will you marry me? I want to make you happy." "What? But we're not even dating yet, right?" I stammered. He acknowledged that with a steady gaze. His proposal didn't push me away. Instead, it made me consider the possibility of a life with him. "If you're okay with me, then yes, I accept." His joy was undeniable. In that moment, I remembered how life can throw us these unexpected, fateful curves. When Kevin proposed, I truly believed that marrying him would lead to happiness. We rushed into marriage, tying the knot just 2 months after meeting. With little experience in love, our journey was clumsy at times, but that made it feel like an adventure. However, about a month after we moved in together, I started noticing the growing gap between my expectations and the reality of our marriage. One day, Kevin approached me with a seriousness more intense than usual. "Carol, there's something I need to talk about," he said gravely. I was startled when he asked me to quit my job and become a full-time homemaker. It was unexpected. He had never shown dissatisfaction with my working before, and this marked the beginning of an odd shift in his behavior. "Why would you ask that?" I questioned, confused by his sudden change. "When you work, it makes me feel unneeded," he confessed. "Did someone put that idea in your head?" I asked, trying to understand his insecurity. "No," he replied, "but at my company, all the other men's wives stay at home. It's just how things are there." I had made it clear from the start that I intended to keep working, especially since saving money was crucial to our plans. But we agreed I would continue working after we got married, didn't we? I reminded him. "I know," he said, "but as my wife?" "I hoped you'd consider my feelings," Kevin said, though it was clear his concern was more about meeting social expectations than our mutual happiness. "Why not just pretend I've quit? There's no need for me to actually leave my job," I suggested, reluctant to give up my career. But Kevin's anxiety about appearances only deepened. "If things don't change, I'll be ridiculed by my colleagues and bosses. I'm supposed to be the head of this household, aren't I? Please just do as I ask," he insisted, unwilling to listen to my reasoning. "I can't make that decision right away," I replied, needing time to weigh my options. "All right," he said, though his tone carried an undercurrent of urgency. "But please decide soon." I knew I couldn't let this issue drag on for long. I feared what might follow if I didn't act decisively. Seeking advice, I turned to my boss, Madison. Madison had been an administrative assistant since high school and had faced a similar situation with a controlling ex-husband, which ultimately led to her divorce. Now she was a dedicated single mother, resilient and independent, and someone I greatly admired. "That must have been tough," I said, voicing my thoughts as I reflected on her strength. Divorce had crossed my mind too, but I wasn't ready to take that step. Kevin and I were still new to marriage, and I wanted to believe we could navigate this. "It's tricky being newlyweds," I admitted, pondering the weight of quitting my job. "I haven't fully thought it through. but leaving my position would make it hard to find a replacement. I want to find a way to keep working, if possible. Madison, who had become a mentor to me, listened intently. I don't plan to quit immediately, I continued. Maybe I could stick with my part-time schedule for now. Switching to full-time might attract too much attention from Kevin. That sounds like a smart move, Madison agreed, her support steady and reassuring. If he still objects, you could propose officially reducing your hours to part-time. That might give you the flexibility you need. That's a sensible plan, I said, relieved to have a clear strategy. Remember, Madison added with a warm smile, you can always count on me for advice. I'm here to support you, Madison reassured me, offering a lifeline in the turbulent sea of my marital issues. Thank you, I really appreciate it, I replied, grateful for her understanding. As our conversation deepened, Madison shared how her ex-husband had also changed drastically after they married, a situation eerily similar to mine. This revelation was eye-opening. I hadn't considered that some men could transform so completely after marriage, becoming almost unrecognizable from the person they once were. Seeing my circumstances through this new lens, I began to wonder, had I been misled? Despite countless discussions, Kevin and I remained at an impasse. Isn't it a woman's role after marriage to support her husband and manage the household? He argued, clinging stubbornly to outdated norms. What era are you living in? I asked, disbelief washing over me. Nowadays, it's normal for both spouses to work. Maybe for other couples, he said, trying to persuade me, but we're different. You see that, don't you? I understand where you're coming from, but I can't agree with it, I responded, stating my ground. Please try to see things from my perspective. Kevin, however, persisted, pressuring me daily to quit my job. His efforts were relentless, but I wasn't ready to give in. I consulted Madison, and together we came up with a plan. I would officially resign, but in truth, I would continue working part-time. Thankfully, Madison understood my situation and adjusted my hours to accommodate this secret arrangement. I've resigned from my job just as you wanted, I told Kevin, keeping up the facade. Really, he asked, a wave of relief washing over his face. Thank you. Now I can finally feel more secure at work. His reaction confirmed what I had suspected all along. Kevin was more concerned about appearances than our relationship. The man I thought I had married was slipping further away, leaving behind someone obsessed with how others saw him. I had hoped that this deception would protect both my independence and our marriage, but it soon became clear that my hopes were misplaced. Despite our so-called new beginning, Kevin continued to exert control over me, venting his frustrations in subtle, oppressive ways. Then one day, without warning, he sprung another demand on me. A junior colleague is coming over today, he said nonchalantly. I need you to host, Kevin said abruptly over the phone. I had no idea, I replied, caught off guard. Sorry, it was a last-minute decision. Just keep it simple, please. Get everything ready. Before I could respond, he hung up. Determined to fulfill his request, I hurried to prepare drinks and snacks. I thought I had done enough. After all, he'd said to keep it simple. But when Kevin arrived, he looked displeased. Didn't I ask you to prepare for today? He chided, his tone sharp. You said to keep it basic, and I did exactly that. What's the issue? I asked, genuinely confused by his reaction. This reflects poorly on me, he muttered, ignoring my question. I need you to fulfill your role as a wife properly. What exactly does that mean? I asked, frustration creeping into my voice. I did my best. Is there something wrong with what I prepared? No, not really, he admitted, though his expression was unreadable, a stark contrast to the kind man I had once known. From that day on, Kevin began inviting guests over almost every weekend, reveling in the social gatherings while expecting me to manage everything behind the scenes. It felt like he was trying to impress his colleagues, using me to bolster his image as a capable husband. This is getting excessive, Kevin, I ventured cautiously one evening. No, it's fine. Everyone enjoys it, and you should support my decisions. It's your duty as my wife, he insisted, brushing off my concerns. Maintaining this lifestyle was draining and expensive. How exactly am I supposed to manage all this? I asked, trying to stay calm. Stop complaining, he snapped dismissively. Any question I raised was met with the same cold response, as if my concerns were mere nagging. Every morning, I woke early to prepare breakfast, pack Kevin's lunch, and make sure his suit was pressed and ready. When I worked part-time from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., There was barely any time to catch my breath. Despite everything, my job became a small refuge, one of the few places where I felt like myself. Carol, you seem really tired lately. Are you okay? My coworker Deborah asked one day, noticing the exhaustion I couldn't hide. Yeah, a bit, honestly, I admitted with a weary smile. If you need anything, I'm here for you, she said gently. Thank you, Deborah. You've been such a reliable support. Unlike Kevin, Deborah saw the toll it was taking on me. She also knew about my secret part-time job and kept it hidden from Kevin, offering me the quiet understanding I desperately needed. I appreciate everything, Deborah, I whispered, grateful beyond words for her kindness. I never thought Kevin would behave this way, Deborah confessed one day, her voice heavy with concern. Neither did I. I've tried talking to him, but he won't listen. We hardly have meaningful conversations anymore, I sighed, feeling the weight of it all. If only I were stronger. But don't be too hard on yourself. You're managing work and household tasks admirably. I can see how much effort you put in, and I appreciate everything you do, she said with warmth. Her kindness was a lifeline. Living with Deborah's support had been a blessing, a stark contrast to the tension I felt at home. However, Kevin grew uncomfortable with how close Deborah and I had become. That discomfort soon led him to make a shocking and sudden decision. Where's Deborah? I asked, noticing her absence one afternoon. Mom's gone, Kevin replied casually. Gone? What do you mean? My confusion grew. I thought it would be best for her to be in a facility. She's getting older, he said, as if it were the most logical thing in the world. You actually placed her in a home? I asked, my voice cracking with disbelief. Yeah, I just finished settling her in. Now I have the house to myself, he responded, almost as if it had been a routine chore. I was at my parents' house when this happened, and I was stunned that he had unilaterally decided to send Deborah away. She wasn't frail enough to need full-time care, and it quickly became clear that his decision was more about getting rid of her than concern for her well-being. When I visited Deborah at the facility, she looked surprised but not angry, just resigned. I'm sorry it had to come to this, I apologize, my guilt weighing heavily. It's not your fault, she reassured me, her voice calm. I never expected him to go to such lengths. I'm worried about what he might do next, but I'll manage. I'll miss you, but if you ever need anything, you're always welcome here. Thank you, I whispered, feeling the gravity of the situation settle in. Afterward, Kevin and I moved into his parents' house. Despite managing all the household responsibilities, Kevin never acknowledged my efforts or showed any gratitude. The idea of having children, once an exciting topic, now seemed completely out of reach. Kevin often dismissed me, choosing to spend more time away from home. On top of that, he began imposing unreasonable rules. No matter how late he came home, I was expected to stay awake until he arrived. If I woke up after him in the morning, it would spark his frustration. What time will you be home today? I asked, knowing it would determine the rhythm of my night, yet again. Just stay up until I get back, okay, Kevin instructed one evening as usual. But something felt off. When he returned home, I took his suit to hang it up and noticed a strange, sweet scent lingering in the fabric, a perfume I didn't recognize. I didn't wear perfume. The fragrance clung to him unmistakably, a silent confession of his infidelity. Every time he came home late, I caught faint traces of that same perfume. Then, one night, Kevin did something out of character. He suggested I go to bed before him. My suspicions deepened. Quietly, I stayed awake, sneaking into the living room where I overheard a conversation that confirmed everything. Oh, she's clueless. When are you going to leave her? A woman's voice asked. I'll kick her out soon enough, Kevin replied nonchalantly, his voice clear. Their words cut through the silence, revealing that their affair had been going on for some time. While the discovery of the affair didn't shock me, it disgusted me. Kevin, still technically my husband, had become someone I no longer recognized. Despite my fleeting hopes that things might turn around, his treatment of me remained cold and unchanging. We were approaching our 3-year anniversary, and instead of things improving, Kevin dropped another bombshell. I have a business trip the day after tomorrow. I need you to get everything ready, he announced abruptly. That's very short notice, I replied, feeling my suspicion rise again. His trips had become a recurring excuse, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just another cover for spending time with his mistress. I remembered the warning from a colleague's wife at a company gathering. Be cautious if he suddenly mentions a business trip. Our company doesn't even have those. Her words echoed in my mind, solidifying my doubts. I had already confirmed my suspicions earlier when I stumbled upon a chat on Kevin's phone. He'd taken paid leave, disguising this business trip as something legitimate. That was the moment I knew it was over. Armed with undeniable proof of his affair, I prepared to confront him with divorce papers the moment he returned. However, Kevin beat me to it. As soon as he got home, he looked at me coldly and said, "Are you ready to leave? The movers will be here soon." "What? Why are you saying this all of a sudden?" I asked, stunned by his blunt directive. "I need you to be gone before I get back," he demanded, his voice void of emotion. And just like that, the final chapter of our marriage had begun to close, but this time, I was ready to write my own ending. "What?" I exclaimed, incredulous. "You can't just spring this on me and expect me to leave immediately." "Then I'll wait a bit, but you need to start preparing to leave," he replied dismissively. "Goodbye." I never imagined my once timid and overly concerned husband could transform into such a domineering partner. This was the final straw. The future I had envisioned with him felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by the reality of living with a man I could no longer trust. What came next? I wondered aloud. This could get interesting. Have the movers arrived yet? No need to rush, they should be here soon. "Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, I'm changing the locks on the house," he added casually. "All right, got it," I said, my heart sinking. The thought of never seeing his face again was oddly relieving. After nearly 3 years of marriage, I was convinced our relationship was irreversibly over. I quickly gathered my things and left the house, instructing my lawyer to file for divorce. Despite our circumstances, Kevin boldly posted pictures with his mistress on social media, displaying a level of audacity I couldn't comprehend. How could he be so reckless, providing even more evidence of his affair? Even our mutual friends noticed his strange behavior, marking the public unraveling of what we once shared. After leaving my in-laws' home, I transitioned back to full-time work and moved into a spacious high-rise apartment in the suburbs, a place I had long dreamed of living. It felt wonderfully liberating to be on my own, free from Kevin's presence. About a month after settling in, I was jolted awake one morning by the doorbell. Peering through the monitor, I was stunned to see Kevin standing outside. "Hey, it's me, Kevin. Open up, Carol," he called out, his voice presumptuous and demanding. His sudden appearance and entitlement were beyond comprehension. Deciding to feign ignorance, I thought it would be more amusing than outright rejecting him. Who are you?" "I'm sorry, but I don't know you," I replied through the intercom. "Don't tell me you've forgotten your husband's face." "I'm not married. I think you've mistaken me for someone else," I continued, watching as desperation washed over him. His face was a shadow of the timid man I once knew. "Please just listen. I've been deceived, and I need Carol's help," he pleaded. "I'm sorry, but I'm not obligated to assist you. If you persist, I'll have to call the police. Seriously, I don't know you." I was resolute in treating him as a stranger. Kevin must have thought I would always be there to solve his problems. But I was no longer that person who tolerated such dependency. "That's it, you made this mess, so it's up to you to fix it," I replied coldly. "You don't have to be so tough on me," he whimpered. "Oh, and by the way, can't stay at your parents' place anymore," he added abruptly. "What do you mean? Do you know whose name the house is under?" I asked, surprised by his statement. "No, but it used to belong to Deborah. Now it's in my name," he explained, revealing a significant change he was unaware of. Kevin had insisted I leave when I confided in Deborah, which visibly upset and disappointed her. "I can't believe my son has turned out like this. I'm truly sorry, especially after all the help you've given us," Deborah had said during one of our conversations. "Deborah, you're divorcing Kevin, aren't you?" she had asked. "Yes, it's for the best," I confirmed. "In that case, I'll transfer the house to you," she offered, making a decision that took both me and presumably Kevin by surprise. Why would Deborah transfer their rights to their in-laws' house to me? Kevin would undoubtedly be puzzled by such a turn of events, unaware that he had been living with his mistress throughout all this turmoil. "That's the situation. Understand and leave promptly," I concluded, shutting down any further attempts at reconciliation or intrusion into my life. We likely wouldn't cross paths again, but I made it clear to him that if he persisted, I would not hesitate to call the police. With that firm warning, he finally relented and left. The divorce proceeded as planned, and I received the settlement we had agreed upon. As it turned out, Kevin had been misled and financially exploited by his mistress. Moreover, the divorce settlement amounted to approximately $410,000. His mistress abandoned him as soon as the money dried up, but I was determined not to let matters end there. I hired both a lawyer and a detective to ensure that all financial claims against him were thoroughly pursued. Additionally, I sought a further divorce settlement claim to secure over $22,000 more. Furthermore, the ownership of the house was officially transferred to me. I insisted that Kevin vacate the premises, and though he initially resisted, legal proceedings left him with no choice but to comply. As for his current whereabouts, I remained blissfully unaware and frankly uninterested. Eventually, his company caught wind of the photos he had posted with his mistress on social media. Unable to endure the scrutiny and the unraveling of his past facade, Kevin chose to resign voluntarily. This outcome seemed inevitable given his true character. If I had one last thing to say about the entire ordeal, it would be this: I don't dwell on it. I am divorced now, and I view it as a learning opportunity, an opening to move forward positively. My bond with Deborah endures, and I intend to focus on my career independently, relishing life as a single individual and embracing all the freedom and opportunities it offers.